Hi, good evening all. We'll be starting the webinar onto the complex retail finding and complete digitization on the GST system. So me and Avinash would be presenting the webinar, and we'll guide you through some slides to understand the ecosystem, the changes that are required into the IT system, what is the preparedness that is required, and how we go further into it. The most interesting part is we'll also show you the demo of the live system that we have developed for the ASP GSP implementation, so you can understand how the written filing will be done. So we'll go through 10-15 slides initially, explain you the system, and post that we'll go towards the demo part. I'll just briefly introduce myself and my co-speaker Avinash Poddar. So I and Avinash got together into the SOCM programs, and when both of us were speakers over there talking about the GST ecosystem, we decided that let's get together and work together towards increasing the learning awareness of the requirement of the GST ecosystem and how we can make people more informed about it. So we started this initiative, and through our combined efforts, we are trying to reach out to people to explain how the GST ecosystem will pan out, what are the challenges in front of the corporates, how do tax professionals need to view it, and how do we take it forward. I will like Avinash to take you through the emerging landscape slide. Avinash, can you take over?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Now the slide in front of you all is pertaining to emerging landscapes for GST. We need to focus, and it speaks about three aspects: organization readiness, ecosystem, and the IT infrastructure. See, before deliberating on this, I would like to mention one thing, that GST is not a taxation reform. It is going to be a business reform altogether. Not only a tax impact has to be analyzed, but we need to analyze our business structure also. We need to analyze how we are ready and to what extent we are ready for the GST. So first, let us touch upon organization readiness. It says, have you analyzed GST impact on your supply chain? Now, when I say, have you analyzed the GST impact on your supply chain, it means that under GST, there are a lot of changes which are not there in the current taxation regime. Say, for example, a branch transfer. When you are making a branch transfer from one state to another state, then what you are doing is you are transferring the goods or selling or supplying the goods, and along with those goods you are supplying some forms, and on the basis of those forms the tax is not applied at the time of sale or supply of those goods. And finally, when the branch is selling, at that point of time the tax applies. But in case of GST, even a branch transfer will be taxable. So it is going to impact your working capital, and therefore you need to analyze the impact on your supply chain. Let us put an example. You have branches in 29 states. So whether now all those 29 branches are required or not, that we need to analyze once the GST will be there. For the logistics, how to maintain the logistic part also, and pricing, working capital, and inventory. All these are linked with each other. Like if 29 states, 29 branches are there, there may be a situation wherein you are transferring the goods as on date from each of your branch. But in case of GST, that might not be a viable option. Again, a practical example, if you have a factory at Gujarat and you have 29 branches across the country, what you will be doing is you will be manufacturing the goods from Gujarat and then transferring those goods to all the states, and from that branch you are finally selling it off to the end users. But in GST, as soon as you will transfer those goods or supply those goods to other states, the GST will be applicable, and therefore it is going to impact your working capital. So we need to sit and study the impact and do the analysis work, whether our supply chain management needs to be changed, how the logistics should be maintained. Let me put an example. You are a, say, sweater manufacturer, located at Punjab and you manufacture sweaters during the whole year, but the demand for sweater is only in November, December, January, or February for 4 months only. So whether you should maintain those logistics at your end or you should shift those logistics to your branches or to your distributors or not, it needs to be analyzed and the impact has to be understood in much detailed and analytical manner. Otherwise, we can be in trouble and the working capital can be impacted. Moving further about the
Yeah.
ecosystem, it says, are your vendors, customers, and other stakeholders GST compliant or not? So for GST, it is again very important that all your vendors and customers and other stakeholders with whom you are going to deal with in day-to-day life or and your business, whether they are GST compliant or not. If they are not GST compliant, then it will become difficult for you also to maintain your records in a proper manner. Or maybe like, let me put an example of input tax credit. So if the other party, say your supplier, is not a GST compliant, or he is not maintaining the records properly, or he is not registered, then in that situation, whether you will be able to take that credit or not, it becomes a big question. So that analysis also has to be put in. Further moving, IT infrastructure. It's very important. I would say the best person to discuss this is Neeraj Bhai, but I will be discussing on infrastructure part from the perspective of a taxpayer or maybe an organization. It says that whether your accounting system is GST compliant, because the way and the manner in which you are doing accounting today is again going to change drastically once the GST is there. Let me put an example. In today's scenario, when you are manufacturing the goods, the taxable event occurs. When you are removing those goods, the tax is paid. So time of supply under GST is very important, and therefore you need to pay attention towards the IT infrastructure also. Moving further, it says impact of GST on IT systems. See, we might be using n number of softwares are there in the market. We might be using any damn software, but for GST, we will have to analyze the business implication and then we have to modify our infrastructure of IT so that it could be compliant with GST. And this is an example put here: outward supply, inward supply, inventory, accounting and taxation, and GL accounting. All those domains have to be tested and it has to be in line with the GST requirement. There are certain other options given like vendor and customer master to extend GST, product master and HSN SSE change, warehouse management tool, forecasting process, material planning, inter versus intra-state sourcing options. And then the changes which are required are various statutory reports, because all the statutory reports are going to change under GST, the tax code, the classification of taxation, the rate of taxation, accounting, the manner in which you are doing accounting as on date, and then most important is return filing process and reconciliation. Because what we are going to discuss today is the entire return filing process, how complicated return filing process is going to be there in GST. Next is impact on the IT systems. See, what we are trying to analyze is how GST is going to impact not only our business, not only our supply chain management, not only the manner in which we are doing accounting, but it is going to impact the entire IT system, entire software system of the organization. Because again, I will put an example of bank. In case of GST, state-wise taxation is going to be there because it is destination-based consumption tax. So all the banks which are now core banking systems centralized will have to decentralize on the basis of state. And these are certain masters on which we will have to give time, do the analysis part, and make it compliant as per the requirements of GST. Vendor master, state-wise GSTN and their address if more than one branches. Reverse charge if applicable, exemption if applicable. Now it says and their addresses if more than one branches. So any vendor if have multiple branches in multiple states, then he will have to register himself in each of that state and you will have to take the address of those states and maintain the vendor master. Moving further, it says stock transfer master. Whenever you are transferring, as we discussed earlier, whenever you are transferring your goods from one branch to another, the GST is attracted. Then it means that you need to maintain two separate books in spite of single book for the GST purpose and the other book for the audit purpose. So you will have to maintain separate records also for GST separate and for audit separate. Then invoice format. There are invoice rules and the formats which is available in the public domain, which has been issued by the GST Council. And in the invoice, not only GSTIN or UIN number is required, HSN code or service accounting code, point of supply you need to mention, rate of CGST, IGST, SGST, and now UTGST also needs to be mentioned. Then place of delivery, where it is different from place of supply. Again, my dear friends, it is very important to note three aspects in GST, and you will have to be, I would say, conversant with that. First is supply, second is point of supply or time of supply, and third is place of supply. These three things are very important, and place of supply has to be mentioned in the invoice, and that will help you to find out whether interstate or intra-state supply is going to happen, and whether IGST or CGST, SGST is going to be levied, and whether you will be eligible to get the credit of CGST or IGST. And then if tax is payable under reverse charge, then again the invoice should contain the detail that it is payable under reverse charge. Purchase order and sale order master. Sales data to be filed first. To make reconciliation easy, both should be changed in line with invoice format and include various details like GSTIN, HSN, SSC code, point of supply, etc. Whatever we have mentioned and discussed earlier. Now, give me 1 minute for this. When we'll see the return filing process, the first detail that you need to submit to the GSTIN is outward supply detail. That means the sales. And believe me, friends, nowadays what we are doing is we are concentrating on finalization of our accounts, and we are not concentrating on the initial entry part. We have a weaker accountant at the inception level, but an expert at the final level, because we believe that finalization is more important. But in case of GST, I would recommend that we should have a best person to enter the data, because once the data is entered correctly in the outward supply, everything is going to be a flawless entry and we will not face any problem. Next is customer master. It is very important. State-wise GSTIN and their address if more than one branch. Then reverse charge if applicable, we need to mention that, and exemptions if applicable, we need to mention that. Revenue master, there are going to be 4 accounts under GST: SGST, CGST, IGST, and now a new one, that is UTGST. We need to maintain that revenue master also. And expense or GL register, again 4 expense and GL register. And goods and services tax master, the kind of goods or the supply of goods into which we are indulged into, or the supply of services into which we are involved. We need to maintain the master of those, the HSN code or service accounting code, and the product or service wise item codes to be mapped with the codes of the services or HSN code. It has to be mapped properly, that X item has this HSN code, Y item has this service accounting code. It has to be matched properly in your accounting system. So in short,
Avinash, I wanted to add one point over here for the
yes,
listeners, that the most important and the major change into the IT systems that is happening from the current VAT and service tax regime is, in the current VAT and service tax regime, we were not submitting the item wise data into the system. So what we were submitting is basically the invoice amount, the tax amount, and the other related data. But into the GST system, if we have 15 line items of different kinds of items, or if we have 10 different items, then we need to submit the invoice data along with the itemized data. The GSTN is not going to utilize or use that data for the first 2 years, but as far as the submission of the data is required, this needs to be done. And this becomes one of the biggest change that from the current system that we need to make into our IT systems to make it more compliant.
right.
Now, if I take some of the immediate impact of GST on IT applications, even the debate on how the numbering of the GST and invoice should be done is clear. Up till now, we used to have a localized numbering systems depending on the branch and other aspects, and we were not focusing onto it. But to have a better IT systems in place, we need to have a very controlled numbering systems by which we can identify the location, the branch, the state, and other aspects of it. Maybe something similar to the bank accounts, but this needs to be given a thought, and this needs to be given a thought today, so that when 1st of April comes in, we are more ready with how the numbering will include. Then the second change would come in is the GST numbers to be included in all vendors and customers data, because this itself in an exercise to itself, and as the customers have migrated to the GST systems, we need to start collecting that data, make the necessary changes into our IT system, and start making those changes into that, by which we have this data ready with us. If we go further into the timeline, still the final HSN SSC codes have not been declared, but once they are declared, we need to map our existing items with it, take the necessary clarification as and where required with the our tax consultants, and have a compiled master ready, which would be incorporated into our IT system so that it can be used for further filing. Then specific changes for the traders fraternity, it is very important because they have been dealing on the RG23D matter, wherein they have not been passing on the tax credit based on the receipt of the tax credit. But on the GSTN, that will work quite differently, and they also need to make the changes into their system. Similarly, changes in chart of accounts, material master, and all those would be required as we go into the development of our IT systems. Branch transfer and warehouse transfers, at lot of places it just used to be a stock transfer invoice. Now it will have to be a value added invoice with the GST that is applicable onto it has to be mentioned. So all these changes in terms of understanding, in terms of educating our accounts people, as well as making the changes into our IT systems are very, very critical, and the sooner we start with it, the better prepared we will be onto it. I think Avinash, you can take through the GSTR 1, 2 and 3 filing details, how that will work.
Yeah, sure. These are certain forms which we need to submit to the GSTN as written forms. GSTR1 is details of outward supply of taxable goods and or services. Whatever taxable goods we are supplying or services we are supplying during the month, by 10th of next month, we have to submit a outward supply details in a form which is known as GSTR1. Now, when we are filing GSTR1, the details that we are filing as our outward supply is supposed to be inward supply for someone, and for them, that means the recipient of those goods or services which we are supplying, they will be having that data reflected in part A of GSTR 2A. They will see that data which I have filled as my outward supply, and then what they can do is they can edit, and therefore it is written details of inward supply made available to the recipient on the basis of form GSTR1 furnished by the supplier. Whatever as a supplier I have furnished as my outward supply is going to be inward supply for that person, and he can see that on his portal or login, and from there he can even edit, modify, delete something, some part of that, and whatever he does, it gets reflected into GSTR2, and it is details of inward supply. Whatever he has received, he will be reflecting that into GSTR2. That has to be filed by 15th from the end of the month. That is, first GSTR1 has to be filed by 10th of the next month, and GSTR2, that is inward supply details, has to be filed by 15th of the next month. And then one more form, that is GSTR1A. It is important form because whatever changes, details of outward supply as added, corrected or deleted by the recipient, whatever changes the recipient is making and filing GSTR2 is getting reflected in GSTR1A, which I have to modify or accept by 17th of next month. And finally, there will be a return which is to be filed, which is known as periodical return under GST. It is to be filed by 20th of next month, and it will be a cumulative return wherein the total tax liability of outward supplies during the month and the total credit of the inwards during the month and the difference of that payable, and after making payment of the same, a file of return has to be submitted, which is known as GSTR 3.
And
Neeraj, if you have to add something, you can add.
yeah, I would like to add few points into this. That means if somebody is having 100,000 invoices in a month, then it is practically impossible to push all the invoices at the end of the month. So you need to have a system by which you have a continuous upload of the invoices into the GSTN system, and they save it over there. And once you like go for the filing of the returns, then it is there. Now, when the entire GSTR system's core has to be the reconciliation part of how the system will work. Because once you have issued the invoices to somebody, yeah, you have received the purchase of your month, and if you have mismatch into it, then how that needs to be reconciled and taken care. Once we show the demo to you, you will get much more clarity on how this reconciliations part works. So we'll move towards that, but first I would like to explain a little bit on the return filing flow. We'll go through the return filing flow a little bit. Now, if you have an ERP system or something, so as a ASP or a GSP, he will provide you a built-in rule engine. Now, if we take the GSTR1 form, it has around 14 to 17 different sections. And if you are going to create a manual return out of it, then you will have to upload the data into each of this section, and then you will have to manually file each of that section and go for it. But with a very good enriched API and a rule engine, what we can have directly from your ERP system with a built-in rule engine, you can file the returns. The other options are either use Cygnet GST portal, that which we are going to demo to you today, or for large corporates, they can have an on-premise utility if they are critical about the security of the data. From that, through the GSP, you can upload the data in a bulk. So this would help you into automating the process. Yes, initially it will be a little bit complicated, but once the systems get set, then it would be very easy, and you will have very smooth process. Like as Avinash told, that initially you need better tax consultant, better tax professionals to start and guide you at the right time, so that all your future transactions becomes much more easier. Now, if we say, Avinash, you would like to take this slide?
You can take it, no problem.
Yeah, sure. From the supplier, he has to file GSTR1 as we explained to that, and that GSTR1 has to, means will have multiple types of different transactions. It can be B2B transactions, it will be B2C transactions, it can be B2C transactions other than part 2 above, so means like more than a 2.5 lakh value. It can be details of the debit note, credit note, or nil rated, exempted, or non-GST outward. Yesterday we came across a particular situation in which GST and VAT both will be applicable into the invoice at the same time. Like if you take the gas invoices or some petroleum product invoices, then this would be like combined. So whatever is filed by the supplier as a GSTR1 form will be visible to the buyer as a GSTR2A. So once everybody has filed by the 10th the GSTR1, you will immediately get your GSTR2A. You need to reconcile. So you need to have your purchase data ready, and the purchase that has come to you from the GSTR2A form, you need to reconcile it with your purchase register and hold, add, reject, or modify that, and then pass it on to the system. Similarly, for a supplier, he needs to accept or reject what he has received, and that the buyer would file a GSTR2 form that will include the B2B inward supply, import of goods, and all these modifications have to be done. Now the rule engine will automatically populate the data as per the category of data, and the supplier has to accept or reject that data, file his GSTR1A, and once that is done, once it is auto populated, your GSTR3 will be auto created. And from GSTR 3 you will have a ITC mismatch report that will be there, which will show actually how much credit you have got from your purchases and how much tax you really need to pay. So this also needs to be reconciled with the GSTN system. So this appears to be a little bit complex, but with highly evolved IT systems, this process would be quite smooth and quite simple. Now, if we take the business, they can move into three different ways for the GSP systems. One is like people who are going to create their ASP solutions can use a GSP and straight away file the returns to the GSP systems. Other businesses can use a custom rule engine and register with a GSP portal and use through pass-through APIs to file the system. One more way can be have a Cygnet or any kind of a GSP on-premise solution with a enriched API component, obtain on-premise license of it, and using the pass-through API file the return. So these are the different methodologies by which you can do that, and depending on your systems that you are using currently, depending on the type of facility that it proposes, and working with your ASP GSP, you need to find the right solution by which you can have a very simplified way of filing your returns. Now, some of the features that the GSP solution has is validations, a two-stage validation process wherein your data will be authenticated along with your masters and what you are filing. A very advanced rule engine by which with limited data availability onto it, yeah, limited uploading of the data, you can auto-populate the GSTR1 and GSTR2 formats. Email and SMS notifications, so that if you have a mismatch credit, you can have an email and SMS notifications to your from the people whom you have purchased the material, so they can rectify it or you can communicate to them. Reconciliation is the heart of the GSP systems or the GST ecosystem, and the better reconciliation you get into any system, that will smoothen and simplify this. At the same time, the audit log is a very critical part, because you need to be clear when the returns have been filed, how it has been filed, and who has filed it. So a system that gives you excellent audit logs would be very better. And there are multiple ways to access the system. Either it can be on-premise solution or it can be through a portal. In future, you will get a client-server application. You can file returns through your mobile app also, and you can use enriched API or a pass-through API. Now, for businesses, multiple business management solutions are provided. A very advanced dashboard which will be shown to you, that is provided. You can have multiple logins, you can have multiple users onto it. Bulk import of invoices is done. So from your system, either through a Excel, CSV or JSON format or a custom solution, you can have bulk thing of the invoices. And a very good users and role management is given, so it can work along with your actual organization structure by which the users and the role manage can be done. These are some of the features of the enriched API. It gives business management, rule engine, comprehensive dashboard for Hawkeye view of the business unit, built-in validation engine, fully functional invoice management capabilities, built-in reconciliation, complete transaction log, regular email and SMS notification, and one-time configuration setting for ASPs, plus branch location and unit management. Now we'll walk through the demo, and I will pass on the controls to my colleague, our senior analyst Viral, who will guide you through the demo.
Ledger balance.
I think now Viral's voice would be available to all of us, and Viral, you can guide through the demo to the people.
Sure, sure. So once you log into the Cygnet GSP portal, you will be presented with a dynamic dashboard. The dashboard will be fully dynamic with the capabilities of presenting you the up-to-date information to date as on date. So basically, the first widget that is there on the dashboard, as you can see, would present to you the current or the present ledger balance. We have segregated the ledger balance availability based on CGST, SGST, and IGST. So for CGST, SGST, and IGST, the breakup with regards to the liability, the cash credit available with us, as well as the input tax credit, the overall balance that remains after computing the liability as well as the input tax credit available would be presented there on the dashboard. User would also be able to pay tax directly. Paying tax direct on clicking the pay tax button, the user would redirect it to the GST portal in order to pay the taxes. The widget that is present below would present to the user the current filing summary. So now we are dealing with two kind of paths for filing the GSTR returns. One is the happy path and one is the unhappy path that is still under discussion with the GSTN. So irrespective of whether the happy path has been initiated or an unhappy path has been initiated, our system is fully dynamic and capable of handling both the scenarios. So user will have a hawk's eye view of where he has reached with regards to the return filing. So if he is currently onto a reconciliation stage, it will show that the reconciliation is currently happening, and GSTR 2, 1A, and 3 remains to be filed yet. On clicking a particular return on the dashboard, this will navigate the user to the appropriate return screen, and the user will be able to file the returns there. The third widget that is available on the dashboard, it will present to you the yearly return status with regards to which all months returns are currently pending to be filed and which months returns are absolutely filed with regards to the returns filing. I will straight away jump to one of the core modules that Cygnet GSP portal handles. What we have done is, just to explain to you, all the returns consist of multiple sections that requires the input from the user segregated based on the section wise. So as you can see in my screen right now, the GSTR1 form as an example are divided into 17 different sections. So what GST portal assumes is that a registered taxpayer goes into each and every section and files in their details which needs to be submitted. In Cygnet GSP portal, we have very well taken care of this tedious task which a registered taxpayer has to go through. They don't require to manually input each and every details in each and every section into the GSTR1. In order to manage and file returns automatically, what a user needs to do is, Cygnet GSP portal basically demands the outward and the inward supplies details from the registered taxpayers. If we talk about the outward supply details, we have differentiated the outward supplies into four parts: invoices, credit debit notes, any advance payment related information, and the invoices issued related information that requires to be furnished into the GSTR1. So what user needs to do is, they simply needs to step into the portal, upload their supply data, upload their inward data, outward as well as inward data as per the five different uploads that are needed for the inward and four different uploads that are needed for the outward. Once the data are there available into the system, our rule engine will come into picture, will process the data and distribute that particular data automatically into GSTR1 sections, that are 17 sections available. And similarly, inward data will automatically be distributed to the GSTR2, and without any user intervention, a user can simply verify the details in GSTR1 and file the returns. Now I would walk you through how to upload data, how are we managing the outward supplies data, how to upload the data basically into the system. So on clicking upload, user would be able to select the month for which they want to maintain their outward supply as well as inward supply. Mention here whether the data which is being uploaded is actually an amendment or they are the plain invoices that is being furnished. On clicking browse, one can import the file. Once the file is successfully imported into the application, the left-hand side columns that are currently visible on the screen are the columns that are required in order to file GSTR1. As we are currently dealing with outward supply data, is required to file GSTR1. So we are currently talking about GSTR1 and the outward supply data. The right-hand side columns that are available in the drop-down are the columns that are being presented from the uploaded Excel spreadsheet. So user can manually map all the relevant columns from their Excel sheet to the ones demanded by the Cygnet GSP portal and click on next. A point to remember here, user does not need to every time come here, step into this page and manually map the fields from their Excel spreadsheet. They need to do it only once. Our application will intelligently remember what all columns were being mapped, and the next time you step into this page, you will find this column already mapped. So in case of any changes with regards to the columns in the Excel spreadsheet, you need to change only those columns. Here, don't need to change and map the entire column listing. On clicking next, our system also provides you with the built-in validation capabilities. So there are number of validations that our system would fire as and when you upload the data. They will check whether the digits for the GSTN are adhering to the compliance or not. We will also check UIN is compliant or not, whether the point of supply that is being presented in your data is in line with the applicable IGST, CGST or SGST. So we have all this built-in validations in place, and in case if any data goes incorrect while uploading, the system will capture that data and allow you to modify the data here itself. And once you modify the data, you can click on validate and the system will validate this information. Now in case, one of the questions from your end might be that when the data are imported from your system, on-premise system onto a Cygnet GSP portal, and you have anything incorrect here, you would obviously like to have the report with you available so that you can go back to your system and change the data manually in there. So with the help of download arrow report, you would be presented with all those data that are having discrepancy and not validated into the Cygnet GSP portal. And you can carry this data and make rectification to the available details into your existing system. So once I click on validate, any corrections made by me would be validated, and on clicking update and finish upload, the data would be successfully uploaded into the Cygnet GSP portal. Few minutes back I talked about a rule engine. So basically once each and every outward supply data are already present into the application, are uploaded by you, our rule engine intelligently is capable of identifying what kind of data needs to go to what particular section of GSTR1. So I'll show you how this works. As a user, I don't need to do anything. Whatever has to be done from a user's perspective has already been done by you. You have uploaded your outward supplies here. It's been presented in front of your screen. You simply need to just go to the particular return you wish to file, and just simply need to verify these details. So our system has intelligently sent all the B2B invoices data to its particular section. All the B2C related data, if available, would be presented into B2C section, and similarly the entire GSTR1 form would be populated. In order to successfully file GSTR1 form, aggregate turnover of the entity filing the GSTR1 needs to be furnished here. You can also select the month for which you wish to file the GSTR1. We are capturing the place and date on which the particular returns are being filed. This is with regards to we are also maintaining audit logs, just for your reference, so that a company representative can have a throughout detail of who filed which return on which date and at which place. So all these details would be readily available as an audit log to the company representatives who would be signing into the Cygnet GSP portal. In order to successfully file a return, a user needs to furnish the digital certificate or an Aadhaar card number. Our system would be capable enough to verify these details once the API has been furnished by the GST, and I would need to upload the digital signature. So I'm uploading the digital signature here. On clicking file, the system would ask me to enter the OTP. Now remember, this OTP will be generated onto the mobile number which has been used by the company while registering onto the GST portal. So one needs to enter that particular OTP. So we can say that we have kept the system secure enough so that only a valid person, a valid company filing these details are checked, are authenticated, and once the particular valid OTP has been submitted here, they would be successfully able to file any return. So in case, so we have successfully filed the GSTR1 return, and it will return us with the acknowledgement number, with the help of which we would be able to see the returns available on the GST portal while you sign into the GST portal itself.
Just I wanted to add that this actual number is being generated from the GSTN portal at the moment. So up till now, GST portal has given us APIs for the GSTR1 return, and till that time, till that particular process, the entire system is working with the GSTN portal for the testing purpose.
Neeraj, I want to add something.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I am just having a willingness to ask one thing, but that the digital signature through which it is signed, it's a normal digital signature that we are using for our e-filing of returns and all.
Yes, and it is the same image by which you have signed in into the GSTN, like for the migration part, what you have done. So it is same digital signature, or you can even use your Aadhaar authentication card by which you have registered onto it. So either of the both can work onto it, but you need to register with what you are going to work on the GST portal for the first time.
Okay.
And even for the OTP, what you need to do is there are multiple options that you can have a OTP that can be created for 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year. A long session also can be created so that you don't need to create the OTP every time. And the return filing process here, the daily invoicing, because for large corporates, if they have to file upload the invoices on a daily basis, then it becomes very cumbersome to generate the OTP and do the process. For the automated process, then you can create a long session, and by which the process can be much more simplified.
Right.
Viral,
right.
can move ahead with the next one.
Sure. So once the GSTR1 is successfully filed, all the details that are being filed in GSTR1 would be presented into the reconciliation screen. So basically, as the process says, once the GSTR1 is successfully filed, GSTR2A would be presented, And once the GSTR2 is presented, the system would intelligently download all the data and present that data into the reconciliation screen. I would walk you all through the reconciliation screen and how exactly the process would work. Just to provide you all with an update that GST demands reconciliation only for the registered, only for the entities which are from the registered taxpayer to the registered taxpayer. They do not demand any other. Uh, they do not demand any other information apart from the B2B things. So the reconciliation would be available only for the following four things. One would be B2B invoices, invoices amendment for B2B, credit debit notes, and credit debit notes amendment for the B2B things. So basically what happens is once the supplier has successfully filed their GSTR1 and the data is available into GSTR2A, the system intelligently downloads all the data that are filed by all my suppliers. So currently I would take place of a buyer. I would be stepping into the buyer's shoes in order to do the reconciliation. We would segregate the entire details into two parts. One is matched records and another one is mismatched records. Matched record section will contain all those details which are successfully or which are exactly matching with my purchase register. So these are all these details which are available in my purchase register. I have uploaded this data in my inward supplies register, and my supplier has also filed this data, and there is absolutely no discrepancy between these data. All those data will be available in match record section. Another section is mismatched records. Now there can be three scenarios that may arise with regards to any mismatch. One is supplier has successfully filed a particular invoice, but somehow that invoice is missing in my records, or I have not yet uploaded that invoice. So that would be available in the first section, which says not available in purchase register. The second section provides such data which is not yet filed by my supplier, but is available in my purchase register. So basically I'm claiming, I want to claim the input tax credit on this invoices which any of my supplier has not yet filed. And the third section is mismatch in invoices. So as a part of GST compliance, the matching or the mismatch happens with regards to the four values of an invoice. One is invoice number, invoice date, taxable value, and the tax amount. So any discrepancy in these four values, so basically this section says that, okay, the invoice is already filed by my supplier. I have this invoice present in my purchase register, but somewhere one of the four values have a mismatch, and I need to have, and the system needs my attention on what to do with this particular values. So with regards to the first section, supplier would have a capability, buyer would have a capability to put the invoices either on hold, reject the invoices that are furnished by my supplier, or directly accept those invoices. With regards to the second section, I can push those invoices into my GSTR2, which I would be filing. So basically I will add those invoices. You don't need to save the reconciliation which you are doing every now and then. Our system intelligently and automatically saves every detail or every input you provide to a particular invoice detail. So as you can see here, reject, add, whatever actions I have performed on the screen are already saved by the system. Once you navigate away from the screen and come back to the screen again, this details would remain saved, and you won't require to do the exercise again and again. So basically I can reject or add the invoice which are presented in my purchase register. In case of any mismatch in the invoices, I can modify the amount here and click on save. So all my modified amount will be presented here on the screen. In case if I have incorrectly modified the amount, I can undo and I can again modify these details. Undo will present to me those details which were provided to me by the supplier. So once the successful reconciliation is done, I can click on finish and complete the reconciliation and let the system know that I am done with the reconciliation and I'm ready to file the GSTR2. Now, there might be a question in your minds that what happens if there are thousands of invoices and I want to accept them all. I don't need to you don't need to manually do the exercise here. If you want to accept all the invoices, you can simply click on finish. Once you click on finish, all the invoices for which you have not taken the action would be auto accepted by our application. And once I click on finish, the reconciliation would be done, and this would be successfully reconciliation would be successfully done. So basically, we talked about rule engine while filing GSTR1. Similarly, there is a rule engine built with regards to the inward supplies. So inward supplies needs to be processed and distributed to appropriate sections in GSTR2. Similarly, whatever details have came into the reconciliation screen, whatever I have reconciled, and once the reconciliation is completed, again this rule engine will come into picture and it will distribute the data into the appropriate sections of GSTR2. So as you can see here, all the data are distributed into the GSTR2. I can view my ITC claimed for this month, what I have claimed as available, total ITC available, and I would be able to see all the relevant details with regards to GSTR2 by expanding each and every section. So we have manipulated this with the help of accordion, so the form does not remain too long and too lengthy for a user to go through the details. Similar to filing of GSTR1, one user would require to furnish the place and date of filing the GSTR, which would be saved into the audit log and available as per the request. One also needs to upload the digital signature, and one would be able to click on file button. Again, the OTP would come into the picture. Just for the information, in case if you don't wish to enter your OTP every time, what you need to do is you would have a capability to mention the OTP as a long session into the GST portal. So you can log into the GST portal with the username and the password which you have got while registering, and you can set the long session there. So every time a user who steps into the application files the return would not require to enter the OTP every now and then. It would remember the long session till the day specified, and you would be able to successfully file the return without entering the OTP.
Yeah, Viral, and thanks for this explanation. And once the GST2 is filed by you, you will get a GST1A return back. And once you have done the reconciliation into the GST1A return, then from that you will be able to get a concise flow of GSTR3 filing, which will also work into a similar manner. So you do not have to re-enter your data. The data will be auto-populated from the system and it will go through. So Viral, can you transfer the controls back to me so I can go to that, and I'll take the controls from it. And
Sure.
so we have a few questions also from people, so we'll like to take we'll also take few questions also that have come into the system. And first I'd like to go through the few takeaways of the system, that basically to be more prepared, you need to consult your chartered accountant, tax consultant on the GST compliance. If you have not done that, please do that, and please do talk to them at the earliest. You need to talk to a GST Suvidha provider if you have bulk invoices there. If you have larger volumes, you need to talk to somebody by which you can smoothen out the things. are your vendors and customers GST compliant? Because if your vendors and customers are not GST compliant, if your vendors are not GST compliant, the challenge would be that you will not get the tax credit in time. And if you not get the tax credit in time, you will be really, you will have to have more finances ready with us, because you will be required to pay more tax. And you need to also analyze what's the impact of GST on your supply chains, logistics, pricing, and other things. So if you need to make any major changes into the process of working, that needs to be implemented as early as possible. And if your accounting applications are not GST compliant, or they are simply not able to throw the data out for a GST compliant system to import it, then you need to work with a system or work with the IT teams by which you can have that structures, and we can provide the basic structures in which you can get the GST compliant data ready, by which it can be incorporated and into that. We'll go through some questions that have come across, and I and Avnish will try and answer as many as possible of that. Otherwise, we'll put it all on our blog so that you get answers onto it. Just give us a minute, we sort out the questions. At the same time, we'll be putting this, the question was, this presentation would be available for everybody to download. We will also have more details as a seminar, like a webinar output. Now we got the questions in front of us. For some pharmacy has more than 1,000 items, then how item wise it will be possible? So most of the pharmacies will have a B2C kind of a thing working into it. But as per the GST system, if you are going to provide the GST credit to it, then all the invoices have to be incorporated into the system. So either it is B2B or B2C, it has to pass through the system, and the rule engine, depending on the availability or the non-availability of the GST systems, then it will auto-populate into it. So this is like thing, but if you can give us a more specific case study, we can provide more details on how the system will work it.
So just to add here, what Neeraj has suggested, in case of all the B2C invoices with regards to the pharmacy, GSTR 1 assumes the data for B2C less than 2.5 lakh invoice value related invoices. The GSTR 1 assumes only the consolidated or the aggregate data of the HSNs of the goods that are being sold. So in that case, once you upload all the invoices and the item related information into our system would automatically and intelligently group those details based on the HSN code furnished if your invoice value is less than 2.5 lakhs, and the relevant details which requires to be submitted in GSTR2 would be sent to the appropriate section. So all you need to have to do is just upload all your B2C invoices along with the item details. Rest our system will take care.
The second question is, from given GST, and how do you differentiate between B2B, composite dealer, casual taxable dealer, etc.? So from the basic information that you have provided from your accounting system, this will be auto differentiated by our rule engine into the system. So we can show a specific demo of it and explain you how it will work, but this will be automatically, it will be done. And then one more question is how reverse charge applicability linked to customer master. As a company, we need to pay GST in all types of sales, there in which case reverse charge will be applicable. Now this also will be governed by the customer master that you provide us, and based on that the rule engine will automatically help you to divert those invoices onto the reverse charge. And the reverse charge amount to a certain extent will also have to be taken care by your accounting system. So this also in more details on a specific case we can help explain it in much more detail.
Neeraj, I would like to add something here.
Sure, please.
Like there will be a specific notification for the goods and services which will be covered under GST. So certainly a system like ours will identify those specified goods and services, and as soon as those specified goods and services are entered into the master, automatically whatever invoice will be created, it will automatically go into the reverse charge. So the system will identify in itself. This is what I believe.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting question. If a buyer has filed GSTR 2 first before the seller files GSTR 1, then how will the same be handled? This is the unhealthy path, and Viral is an expert on the unhealthy path, so he will guide you through that.
Okay, so let me answer your scenario here. So let's suppose if you are a buyer, you are one of my buyers, and you have somehow initiated or filed the GSTR 2 before my filing of GSTR 1. So what will happen is all the details which are filed by you, that would be available to me in GSTR 1A. So basically I have two options here. I may or may not file GSTR 1A. So it's not a mandate. So basically what I would do here is I would accept and reject all the invoices that are furnished by you and available to me in my 1A. Apart from the details that are furnished by you as a buyer in GSTR 2, I would be presented with other data which are still lying in my supplier register, which I may require to push while filing GSTR 1. So what I would do is I would file GSTR 1A, then file GSTR 1. So what will happen is in unhappy path, why we call it unhappy is it goes into a mix mode. So as you said, you filed GSTR 2 first as a buyer, then what it is doing is it is skipping all the steps from GSTR 2A till 1A, and it is directly assuming that GSTR 2 is filed by the buyer, and I simply accept reject and I file GSTR 1A and then 1. Now once I file GSTR 1, there would be some other set of buyers who have not yet filed GSTR 2. So this gets complicated here. So what happens now is those buyers which have not yet filed GSTR 2, for them GSTR 2A will be available. So they would do the reconciliation process as per the happy path. Again the details would be presented to me in GSTR 1A. Now the things doesn't stop here. We are continuously arguing with the GSTN with regards to the same scenario. So currently this is how it will be handled. So once the GSTR reconciliation is done by my another buyer and he files GSTR 2, as per the happy path flow, GSTR 1A needs to be populated again. It will very well be populated, but here what will happen is, as I have already filed my 1A due to the unhappy path initiation and filed my 1 again, this month as per the rule I have already filed those entities, I would not be able to file this again. So this all details which are furnished by my buyer to me as per the happy path after unhappy path would be presented to me in the next month GSTR 1, and then I would file those details in GSTR 1 in the next month.
So here the challenge would be, there will be a differential duty that will be postponed to the next month and you will not get the full ITC credit of it. We have given multiple such scenarios to the GSTN network so that they can come up with the solution for it. by which it gets simplified for the users. And we are working towards it by which that, but whatever is possible as per the GSTN network today gets taken care into our system, that we can be sure of. The next question is, if you have two HSN code in a single bill, both the entry can be added? Yes, definitely both the entries can be added and there is no issue into it. Now, one more question is, it is true that taxable person having turnover less than 1.5 crore is exempted from writing HSN? Then how to match invoice received by a big business dealer? Avinash bhai, can you take this up?
I don't think there is any mandate like the HSN code need not be mentioned. I have not come across any such information.
Yeah, so HSN code has to be mentioned. That is a prerequisite for the credit to be taken. What I understand is.
Yes.
Is there will be a compulsion to file all the bills online? Yes, there is a compulsion to file all the bills online, and this system will only work into the digital fashion. There is no other way this system will work.
But that is not, there is no requirement of scanning of document, because the people are understanding that they need to scan and upload. They are not supposed to scan and upload. They are just simply supposed to submit the details.
Sure. There are some more questions, and we'll try and see to that all these questions are answered onto the blog. So either me or Avinash will ensure that the questions are I can take one or two more questions. Will exceptions, rejection in such a scenario be done in GSTR 1A or GSTR 1? The exception or the rejection, it will always be done in 1A. So exception rejection is either in 1A or 2A. It will happen. It will not happen in 1A because that will be the basically acceptance of it. Why Cygnet GSP solution validate the sequence and series of invoices being declared by users? Yes, this is a requisite, and along with the return filing, you need to provide what invoices you have put across and what invoice series you are going to file. So this is also something which a reconciliation has to be done and a validation has to be done. Will reconciliation happen on HSN SSC basis in invoice level in your solution? Vinod would like to take this question.
Okay, so while demoing, I showed you three sections for the not mapped records. So for the first two records, our system would aggregate the value for the item level and provide you with the missing invoices if filed by supplier or available in your purchase register but not filed by your supplier with regards to the invoice level. But with regards to the mismatch, that is the invoices filed by the supplier and is also available in my purchase register, but there is a mismatch in one of the four required details. For that part, we are taking care of it at the item level from now on itself, because currently as per GST, the reconciliation as well as the mismatch report would be done at the invoice level and not the item level, but only for the first 2 years. After 2 years, anyhow, all the mismatch and the discrepancies would need to be resolved at the item level. So Cygnet has taken a step forward from now on itself in order to avoid any mismatch in the amounts from with regards to the item level. So we have already taken care of this.
So we are providing the reconciliation for you at the item level from today itself. So maybe your buyer has put 6 items into the system and your system shows only 5 items. You will be able to reconcile it from now onwards. So you will not have to worry about it at a later date. I think that summarizes the major questions that we have been pushed onto it. Some questions have some typical cases that have been there with examples on the invoices. We will write down those answers and provide the solutions of it on the blog. This is all from our end at the moment. Thank you, Avinash bhai, for your time and this joint session. I think it worked very wonderfully and we'll take it forward for more sessions. Thanks, Viral. Even with a bad throat, you helped us out today. Thank you all. And we have put across on the screen the information where you can contact us and our phone number to contact us. And if you need any more information, you can mail us, call us. We will be most available for the communication. Thank you all. Thanks for the session.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.